In the following tutorial, we're going to take a look at classic tweening in Flash. Now we're going to be going through 4 different scenarios of how you can use a classic tween, and I'd like you to start by opening up the classic tweening start file, and of course when you save your file, remove the start, so that way you know that it's your version. Now I've got 2 layers on here already, a buttons layer and a background layer, and these are both locked because I don't want you to be able to edit on those. So in order to create our first tween, we need to create a new layer for this tween. I'm going to put that layer up at the top and name this my transform layer. So that'll be the transform animation that I create. In order to create our first animation, we need some sort of drawing object or shape that we have on the stage. So I can be in shape drawing mode or object drawing mode. It doesn't really matter. And I need to, of course, create some sort of default look for it. So I'm going to do that. And here will be my first object. Now I've held down the Shift key, so it actually is a box. Now, in order to create the classic tween, we do need to use symbols. So we need to convert this particular drawing object or shape into a symbol. So you can bring up your library, and you can click and drag the selected item to your library, or you can right-click and choose Convert to Symbol, or of course press F8. This will be green box. Now, with that green box, we now have our symbol created. You'll notice it's in the library. Go back to Properties, and I'm going to create a animation for this, and we need to have 2 keyframes for the classic tween. So let's go to frame 30 and insert a keyframe by right-clicking on that keyframe for that particular layer, and you'll see, of course, we've created a new keyframe. Now unfortunately it's hidden the buttons and the background layer as well, and that's because those layers don't extend out to 30 frames. So we can right click for each one and insert a keyframe, or insert a frame, I'm sorry, not a keyframe, or we can actually select both layers with the Shift key and right click and choose Insert Frame. This will create the new, or it'll extend the timeline for both of the layers at the same time. Now notice that having a keyframe is very different than just inserting a frame. You want to see this box for layers that have been extended out, but you're not creating a new look for those layers. At the second keyframe for the transform, let's go ahead and move the object slightly, and to create a transform change, of course, we can go to our transform panel and see the different things that we have here. We can do scaling, rotating, and skewing. The 3D rotation and 3D center point we cannot do with classic tweens. We can only do that with the new motion tween. So we can scale our object using the transform panel, or we can use the free transform tool itself and scale and rotate as desired, and skew if you really want. Once we have the 2 looks for our different symbol, let's right click and choose Create a Classic Tween, and you'll notice I now have that tween happening. Now if I want to adjust this keyframe, I can click and drag that keyframe somewhere else, and you'll see what it's done is it's just extended that keyframe out to fit the length of my animation, and then I could go somewhere else and create a new keyframe. So insert a keyframe and then change this look somehow. I can scale it back down, move it somewhere else, rotate it slightly different way, and then I can insert my new Create Classic Tween. So we can change around that animation as needed. So that's basically what we can do with transform only on using a classic tween. In the next animation, we're going to do a color effect change. Then we're going to do text and filters, and then the last one is a motion guide and easing. Now, one of the things that's going to be very different between the this first animation and the next animations is that the other animations we're going to put in their own individual timelines. So we're going to create a new layer, and this will just be called anims, because all 3 animations will be going on this layer. So for the first one, the color effect, let's go ahead and create a new drawing object, and I'll make it a different color just so I can tell it's different. I'm going to select that, convert it to a symbol, so F8 or right click and choose convert to symbol, and this will be the tan box, I guess. It's as good a name as any. And we're going to create a new timeline for this to go into. So let's right click again and choose convert to symbol, and this is going to be the color anim. So this is going to be a new timeline that animation is happening in. If I double click on that symbol, you'll see that I can go into this new timeline, and it says at the top color anim, and this is the timeline that I want to create this animation on. So I'm going to create it at 30 frames just like the other one, so I can right click and choose a keyframe at the end, and then I can go in between and create new keyframes anywhere else, of course, but I'm going to be using the color effect, so I need to click on that instance, go to color effect, and I like the advanced one because of all the rich things that you can do with it. So I can change the look somehow. Let's go back to frame 15 maybe, insert a new keyframe, and then change the look there with the advanced panel somehow. And then we can create our classic tweens by right-clicking in between the two. So you can see, of course, we can change all sorts of different color alterations, I guess, using the color effects. And the advanced one is the most powerful of them all. Let's go back to scene 1, and we're going to be going in the next tutorial, we're going to be making our text animation as well as our motion guide animation. So save your work now and go on to the next tutorial.